Alright guys, I am back yet again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Dark States Drajeweled Masques deck. So version 1, everything through the additional special set, so through a fraction of the booster set 11. However, this deck doesn't use anything from the last DLC set, so if you only have up through the second card pass, you still can play this deck. And this is a different variant of Drajeweled that uses the Masque of Hydragrum order and the Dragon Tree support to allow him to take on his Masques form, which works mostly the same as his original form. The deck still focuses on reducing your opponent's Vanguard's power down to 1. However, this deck can be a little bit faster than the standard variant of the deck, as well as having a control option stacked on top, letting you pick off some of your opponent's rear guards as well. So, as always, we'll be going through the deck, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So, starting first with the ride deck, we have our Grade 0 starter, which is Julius Draco Kid. So, when he's rolled upon, if you win second, draw a card. Same old starter skill, as always. Next, for the Grade 1, we have Jewel Core Dragon. So, he has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit is rolled upon by Demonic Stone Dragon Jewel Neil, you call this card to Rearguard Circle. And then when he's on Rearguard Circle, he has a second auto ability that says when this unit attacks or boosts, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle. And at the end of that battle, you put this unit into your soul. So you ride over him and call him out of your soul, and then he can attack or boost that one turn at a 13k base. Most of the time it's going to be an attack. And then you just pop him right back into your soul at the end of that turn. So some temporary card advantage, and then you put him back into that resource, so you have a grade 1 in your soul to soul blast out later for Drajeweled's cost. So next for the grade 2, we have Demonic Stone Dragon Jewel Neil. So he has 2 auto abilities. First one, active on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. That says when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, you soul charge 1. So he doesn't end up on Rearguard ever, but it is active on Vanguard Circle, so if his attack hits when you attack with him on turn 2, you will get a free soul charge out of it. And then he also has a second auto ability that says when this unit is rolled upon by a unit with Drajeweled in its card name, you soul charge 1, and if your soul has 3 or more cards with different grades, you draw a card. So again, another free soul charge when you ride over top of him, having built up those resources. And you should always get the draw off of this, since you should have the 3 different grades already in your soul just from your ride deck. So just some free resources and some free card advantage when you ride into your grade 3. So then lastly for the grade 3, we have Demonic Jewel Dragon Drajeweled. So first off, he has his activate ability that says once per turn you can counterblast 1 and soul charge 2. And if all of the cards soul charged have different grades, you may draw a card. So I don't use this ability a ton. The Masques form of Drajeweled has a counterblast cost now too, so you want to save those counterblasts for him and Rock Argor mostly. So most of the time you don't want to spend the resources on this. If you have the extra resource, I guess you can, but I don't use this skill very much. If you do use it, it does give you 2 more cards in your soul, and potentially a draw. Of course, the draw is random chance depending on what you soul charge, so you may or may not get that. But yeah, this skill doesn't get used much anyway. And then he also has his auto ability that says when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can soul blast 4 cards with different grades to choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and until end of turn, increase or decrease its power to 1. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets critical plus 1. So with this deck, generally speaking, you do want to go into your Masques form as soon as possible. So a lot of times this ability actually doesn't get used either. If you don't have your pieces set up to go into your Masque form, this is your fallback ability, which is still very nice, letting you soul blast 4 different grades to reduce your opponent's Vanguard's power and possibly gain a crit if your opponent's at grade 3. So, can still be a nice ability, although generally speaking we want to go for the Masques variant as soon as possible. So if you have to use it, it's there, but it's not the primary focus of this deck. Since the primary focus is the first card in our main deck, which is 4 copies of Karmic Demonic Jewel Dragon Drajeweled Masques. So this is the actual main boss unit for this deck, and he has a continuous ability that says this card can only be ridden from a grade 3 with Drajeweled in his card name. Then he also has his activate ability that says once per turn, you can remove a card with Drajeweled in its different card name from this unit from your hand, soul, or drop. To choose 2 cards from your drop, put them into your soul, and this unit gets critical +1 until end of turn. So this is a very useful ability. We are running 3 extra Drajeweleds in the main deck in order to get this ability off as consistently as possible. Generally speaking, you do want to use this every turn. So it will let you put 2 cards from your drop into your soul, so you can grab any 2 cards you need, helping you get the 4 different grades into your soul to pay for his auto abilities cost. And it can also give you an extra crit, which, unlike the original form of Drajeweled, that crit is not limited to your opponent being a grade 3. So that means if you go first and can go into Drajeweled Masques on turn 3, you can potentially have a 2 crit Vanguard swinging against a grade 2 opponent Vanguard that has their power reduced to 1. So you can definitely pressure your opponent very early with that extra crit. Now you only have 1 usage of this ability guaranteed, since of course you can remove the Drajeweled from your ride deck immediately out of your soul. So beyond that, you do have to draw into your other copies of non-masks Drajeweled in order to use it again. So a little bit piece reliant, but can definitely help speed up the deck, especially if you're going first. And of course can help fuel those resources to get your main skill off as consistently as possible. So very, very helpful skill. And then also has his main ability, which is his auto ability, that says when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 4 cards of different grades. To choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards, retire them, then choose 1 of your opponent's Vanguards, and until end of turn, increase or decrease its power to 1. So very similar to the OG Drajeweled skill, letting you still reduce your opponent's Vanguard's power down to 1, except now it also costs a counterblast cost on top of the Soul Blast 4. But in exchange for that, you do also get to retire potentially up to 2 of your opponent's rear guards. So you can pick apart their board and decrease the power of their Vanguard. So if they have any interceptors in the front row, generally you want to target those to decrease their defense even more. And of course, by reducing their Vanguard's power, you're effectively strengthening all of your attacks for that turn, which, when used in combination with his activate skill, giving him the extra crit, can make his attack very, very dangerous. So very similar to the original form of Drajeweled, but potentially a little bit faster, and you get that retire option built in as well. So while he is a bit resource heavy, he can be a pretty cool Vanguard for the deck. So next up for the grade 3s, we just have 3 copies of Jewel Embracing Dragon Fang Drajeweled. So this is actually the trial deck variant of Drajeweled, which its first continuous ability is not used since it revolves riding on top of him, and his auto ability is only active on Vanguard Circle, and he never ends up on Vanguard Circle. It's the same exact auto ability as Demonic Jewel Dragon Drajeweled has. So those first 2 abilities are irrelevant. The only ability that matters is his second continuous ability when he's on Rearguard Circle. That says if you Soul Blast 4 more cards at the same time for the cost of your card's ability this turn, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So this ability isn't super relevant either, really. It just makes him an 18k base when he's on Rearguard Circle. So of course the primary usage of this card is to just remove it for Drajeweled Masques ability. The only reason I chose to go with this version of Drajeweled as opposed to 3 more copies of Demonic Jewel Dragon Drajeweled is because this form won't be totally vanilla on Rearguard Circle if I do have to call him to Rearguard to have an extra attacker, which isn't a situation that arises very often, but on the off chance that it does happen, of course, Demonic Jewel Dragon Drajeweled would just be vanilla on Rearguard, while this one would be the 18k base. So just in that one situation, this one is a little bit better. The only downside to running this one over 3 copies of Demonic Jewel Dragon is the fact that if you somehow don't have your pieces to go into your Masques form, you do have to give up the potential Persona ride if you just wanted to ride Demonic Jewel Dragon on top of Demonic Jewel Dragon. So, again, that's a situation that shouldn't arise too often either, since, again, immediately you want to go into your mask form. So, it just depends on which niche situation you would rather have to deal with. So, if you'd rather run 3 copies of Demonic Jewel Dragon as opposed to this variant, you can. But I just chose to go with this one to get that niche rearguard ability. But yeah, his primary purpose is just to be removed anyway. Preferably from the drop zone, if you can get him in there by discarding him for your ride deck or whatever. So then lastly for the grade 3s, we just have 2 copies of our normal order Masque of Hydragrum. So there's no cost to play it, and it lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck to choose up to 1 unit card with Dragon Tree or Masques and its card name from among them, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. So you have 8 targets for this ability in the deck, since we got 4 copies of the Dragon Tree Wretch and then 4 copies of Drajeweled Masques. So it might whiff, but it doesn't really matter too much, since the main point of this card is just to get it into the drop zone to use its activate ability that says if you have a grade 3 Vanguard without Masques and its card name, you can reveal a grade 3 card with Masques and its card name from your hand, and ride the card revealed for this cost as stand, and if you rode, you put this card into the soul, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater and you did not Persona Ride this turn, you activate Persona Ride. So this is obviously the key card for the deck. It lets you Superior Ride into your Masques form, while also putting itself into your soul, so that will get you another grade 3 into the soul to help pay for Drajeweled Masques cost. Even if you have to remove the ride deck Drajeweled from your soul in order to use his first ability, you'll still have a grade 3 in there guaranteed. It can also potentially help you Persona Ride on turn 3 if you went second. However, even if you went first, you still want to go ahead and go into Drajeweled Masques if you have the means to do so, since you'll get that extra crit pressure 1 turn early. So if you go first, use this immediately and get your 2 crit Vanguard against a grade 2 opponent. Or if you go second, then you can still use this and get the Persona Ride bonus, so you'll have that extra power boost and still a 2 crit Vanguard against a grade 3 opponent. So either way, you want to use this as soon as possible to immediately go into that mask form. So yeah, definitely a very important card for the deck, but we only need it at 2 of, since we do have a way to search it in this deck. So that is all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 4 copies of Dragon Tree Wretch Skull Kemna. So he has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 1 to choose one of your rearguard circles without any Dragon Tree markers and put a Dragon Tree marker. Then you search your deck for up to 1 Masque of Hydragrum, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. So this is the card I just mentioned that will let you search out your Masque of Hydragrum. So it gets you your key combo piece into your hand. It also gives you a Dragon Tree marker, which I'll throw up a screenshot of those. They just give any unit on that circle an extra 5k if your Vanguard has Dragon Tree or Masques in its card name during your turn. So a nice little power up, you can put that on the rearguard circle of one of your restanding rearguards to power up both their attacks. So this is a very important card for the deck, helping you find, one of your main pieces. He is a counterblast and a soul blast cost, so, a little cost heavy. Make sure you still have at least 1 counterblast available to use Drajeweled Masques ability, and also make sure that that soul blast doesn't prevent you from having the 4 different grades in your soul. So be mindful of those things, but yeah, a very important piece in this deck in order to get your order into your hand. So next up, we got 3 copies of Demonic Stone Dragon Rock Argor. So he has 2 auto abilities. First one says once per turn, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater unit, if your soul has 4 or more cards with different grades, this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. And then his second auto ability says when you soul blast 4 or more cards at the same time for the cost of your Vanguard's ability, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can counterblast 1 and stand this unit. So he can become a 20k attacker from his first ability and also restand himself with his second ability. Now he is another counterblast cost in this deck, so, you know, again, be mindful of those resources. But he can give you a 4th and potentially 5th attack in one turn. Using him twice and Drajeweled Masques will eat a lot of counterblast in one turn, though. But yeah, he can increase your overall attack count, and since that power gain from his first ability lasts until end of turn, he will be at 20k base for both those attacks, which will hit a magic number on his second attack, even without a boost at least, since your opponent's Vanguard's power will be reduced to 1 for his second attack. So a very nice offensive card for the deck, made even stronger if you can get him on a circle with a Dragon Tree marker. So yeah, very important offensive card. So next we have 4 copies of Flower of Ruined Castle Impalza. And again, yes, that is incorrect on the card data side where it says Blossom of Ruined Castle. It's supposed to be Flower. That's correct on the card image. Anyway, she has an auto ability when she's on a front row rearguard circle. That says when you Soul Blast 4 or more at the same time for the cost of your Vanguard's ability. If your unit did not stand by a card's ability this turn, you may stand this unit. And if you stand this unit at the end of that turn, you can retire this unit to choose a grade 2 or greater unit card from your soul and put it into your hand. So this is the other restanding rearguard in this deck. This one is cost free, so that makes it a lot better as far as resources go than Rockar Gore. However, she does not power herself up in any way, so you will have to rely on things like your Dragon Tree markers or your Persona Ride bonus in order to get her to hit some better numbers. But she can make it a lot easier for you to get your attack count up to 4 or potentially 5 attacks per turn, even if you have less counterblast resources available. So very important in that regard. Now, since she can only restand herself if you haven't already restood a unit that turn, if you have 2 copies of her in the front row, only one of them will be able to restand. So if you want to do the 5 attack combo, you do have to have 1 copy of her and 1 copy of Rockar Gore, and at least 2 face-up damage, since you'll need 1 for Drajeweled Masques cost and then 1 for Rockar Gore's cost. So you do need some things to align there to get that full combo off. But even with just 1 face-up damage and 1 copy of her, you can still use your Vanguard's ability and get 4 attacks in 1 turn. So you still should be getting some decent offense out of that. And then as for the second part of her skill, where she can retire herself to add a grade 2 or greater unit card from your soul into your hand, that's an ability that, again, I don't use a ton. It is an option mainly to just cycle your Persona Ride copies back into your hand. Beyond that, I don't use it real often. You can only grab a grade 2 or higher, so you can't grab like a Perfect Guard that you accidentally soul charged or something. And you have to retire her to use it, so that's giving up one of your really good rearguards. So if you're playing against a control deck and you know she's going to get taken out anyway, you can just do that to turn her into some more card advantage for your hand. Otherwise, I don't really use that skill a ton. But yeah, still overall a very important offensive card in the deck as well. So that is all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 2 copies of Steam Launcher Yasma. So he has an auto ability that says when your Karmic Demonic Jewel Dragon Drajeweled Masques is placed on Vanguard Circle, you can put this unit into your soul and draw a card. So this is a ±0 since you're losing a card on your board and gaining a card in your hand, but it is a way to get a grade 1 into your soul from your board. So if you need an extra grade 1 in there to help pay for Drajeweled's cost, this is an easy way to get one. When you're initially going into your mask form, since you'll be doing that during the main phase, even if this card is in your hand, you can just call him first, and then use your Order's ability from the drop to Superior Ride into Drajeweled Masques during the main phase, and then immediately shove him into Soul. Beyond that, once you're already on your mask form, you will have to activate this during the Ride phase when you Persona Ride another copy of Drajeweled Masques. So he will have to survive your opponent's turn in that situation if you want to use him later in the game. So a little less useful maybe against, certain control decks that can pick him off during your opponent's turn. But still just an easy way to build up your soul without costing you any card advantage. So next up we have 2 copies of Falcate Performer. So he has his auto ability that says when this unit boosts, you can choose up to one card from your drop, and if your soul does not have a card with the same grade as that card, put it into your soul. So yet another way to help get the 4 different grades that you need into your soul. If you're missing a grade from your soul, you can pick one from your drop of that grade and shove it in there. Not as important of an ability in this deck as it was in the regular variant of Drajeweled, since of course Drajeweled Masques activate ability can grab stuff from your drop and put into soul as well. But this is another backup option. Of course, this card is very useful early game, since you can, you know, put things that you discarded for your ride deck or whatever immediately into your soul to help build it up early. So still a very helpful card, an excellent Vanguard booster, but not quite as important as he was in the other variant of this deck. So next we have 2 copies of Steamskara Zargon. So her auto ability says when this unit boosts, you choose a unit boosted by this unit, and it gets a new auto ability until end of turn that says when this unit's attack hits a Vanguard, you choose up to 2 cards from your drop and put them into your soul. So once again, another way to soul charge from the drop zone, helping you build up that soul and get the grades you need in there without having to eat through your deck any faster. Now, she grants an ability to the unit that she boosts, and it is an on-hit ability, so a little less consistent than Falcate, since of course your opponent can guard the attack. However, that ability is not once per turn, and it lasts until the end of turn. So if you combo her with one of your restanders, either Rock Argor or Impalza, then both their attacks will have that on-hit pressure. So that will be a way to force your opponent to guard those attacks, or just let you have those extra resources. So she combos very well with those rear guards, and is still a pretty helpful card in this deck. So the only other grade ones we have are Sentinels. So first off, we have 3 copies of Recusal Hate Dragon, just your standard Perfect Guard, as well as 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which is 7 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crit triggers, we have 3 copies of Connected Rampage Clin, just your vanilla crit. Additionally, we have 4 copies of Stem Deviate Dragon, crit with a skill. At the end of the battle this unit boosted, you can put this unit into your soul to choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 2,000 until end of turn. So primarily just a way to get a grade 0 into your soul, if you don't have any other way to do so. Next for the draws, we have 4 copies of Rouse Wildmaster Riley. Draw with a skill. If your opponent's Vanguard's Great Theory Vigor, gets shield plus 5,000. So you're a 10k shield draw trigger. Then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Caper Companion, just the vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any of the effect heals, you can feel free to do so. And then lastly, for our overtrigger, we have our 1 copy of Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment, Galmage Held. So his additional effect says you get, during your turn, all of your Vanguards get power plus 10,000, critical plus 1 until end of this fight. So grants a skill to the player, giving you basically a permanent crit trigger onto your Vanguard. Once again, this isn't a mandatory overtrigger if you'd rather run one of the nationless overtriggers from the Festival Booster. It is pretty much just player preference, but I am just sticking with this one, since especially if you check this one early, having the crit pressure from this on top of the extra crits from Drajeweld's own ability can definitely pressure your opponent really hard. So yeah, you can run whichever overtrigger you prefer, but I am just sticking with this one. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our 1 fight with it. And I think we'll fight Haru this time. And we will be going first. Alright, so we'll discard one of these Drajeweleds to ride, and then just end our turn. And I'll let that one through. And she gets a heal trigger, but she's got nothing to heal. And I'll let that one through too. Alright, so we'll discard. And we'll go ahead and drop another Drajeweled. We need him in the drop anyway. So then we'll use Jewel Core's ability to Superior Call him from Soul. And put him in the front row. And I think that's all for now, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first. And she gets another heal trigger when she still had nothing to heal. But Jewel Neil's attack hit, so we get to use his ability to Soul Charge one. And we can still attack with Jewel Core, who can't hit the Vanguard, so we'll have to go after her rear guard. But Jewel Core still does gain 5k. And then Jewel Core's ability will put him right back into our soul. And she's Superior caught a crit trigger off the top of her deck. So this is the only attack she's getting this turn, so I'm going to let that one through. Alright, so let's discard. And we'll drop one of these Impulses, I guess. To ride Drajeweled. And Jewel Neil's ability will let us Soul Charge one and draw. So I'm going to go ahead and call Skull Kimda and use his ability to Counter Blast and Soul Blast. And we'll Soul Blast Falkeet. So then we get to place a Dragon Tree marker, which we will put over here. And add a copy of Masque of Hydragrum to our hand, which I'm going to immediately play. So we check the top 5, and we did find a copy of Drajeweled Masques. So he moves to our hand. So then we will go ahead and use the Masques ability from the drop zone to Superior Ride. Into Drajeweled Masques. So then we'll go ahead and call Impulsa over here, who gains 5k from the Dragon Tree marker. And then we'll use Drajeweled Masques activate ability, and we'll remove one of the Drajeweleds from our drop zone. So then we can put 2 cards from our drop into the soul. So we'll put a grade 1 and a grade 2. And he gains a crit until end of turn. So then we'll go ahead and call Yasma behind Skull Kimda. And I think that's all for now. So we'll go ahead and attack with Impulsa first. So then we'll attack with Drajeweled Masques and use his ability to Counterblast and Soul Blast one of each grade. So we'll do a grade 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we retire her 2 rear guards and reduce her Vanguard's power to 1. And Impal's skill will let her restand herself. Oh, she lets this one through. And we get a heal trigger, which we do get. So we will heal 1. And we will give that power to Impalza. And we get a crit trigger on top of that. So crit to the Vanguard and power to Skull Kimda. So this is going to hit for 3 damage, so it's going to put her straight to 4. And she got no triggers off of that, wow. So then we'll attack with Impalza once again. She lets that one through too. So then we'll attack with Skull Kimda, boosted by Yasma. Oh, and she has to let that one through too. Oh, but she gets a miracle heal. And she barely survived that one. And we could use Impalza's skill here, but I'm actually not going to. So then she gets to revive Maple from her drop zone with her ability. And add a copy of Dark Thagria into her hand. And then she's Superior called Bedivere from her deck and K from her hand, so she got a good column there. So let's see, we will guard that one with that heal. And I'll let that one through. And she can't hit her Vanguard, so she's attacking into Impalza. So I think I will intercept with Skull Kimda, since he's done his job already. Alright, so now we can Persona Ride. And let's see, we could activate Yasma's skill, but we already have 2 grade 1s in our soul. So I'm actually not going to do that right now. And instead, I'm going to call Rockar Gore over here. And then we'll use Drajeweled Masques activate ability once again, and we will remove our ride deck Drajeweled. So then we can put 2 cards from drop into soul. So let me check again. Let's say we got 1 grade 2 and no grade 0s. So we'll grab Julius and Jewel Neil and put them back into soul and gain a crit. And I think we're all set up, so we will go ahead and attack with Rockar Gore first, boosted by Yasma, who will gain 10k from his own ability. Well, she had the perfect guard, that one. So her hand must be full of grade 3s or something, because she is not able to guard very much. So then we'll attack with Impalza. And she guards. So now we can attack with Drajeweled Masques. And use his ability to counterblast. And Soul Blast one of each grade. So let's see, we will get our grade 0, our grade 1, our grade 2, and grade 3. And now we can retire 2 of our rear guards. So if we retire Maple, she could just revive it, potentially. So I'm going to just take out this column. And our Vanguard's power is reduced to 1. So now we want to resolve Impalza's skill first to restand her. And then rock our Gore skill to counterblast. And restand him as well. Oh, she's got to lay it through. So that's 2 crits, so we should have her with this one. And that draw trigger does not save her, so we got her with that one. So there you go, that was my Drajeweled Masques deck. Very fun variant of this deck. It can be a very quick deck, can hit very hard early. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. I believe next up I'll be doing version 2 of my Majesty Lord Blaster deck, actually. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.